I've been dog sitting for some friends and got my buddy here out for a walk. And as it were, there are some neighbors who have decided they wanted to come say hello by barking rather ferociously at us. I suppose they're the greeting committee. Interestingly, this week's reading mentions dogs, albeit indirectly. Talks about a terefa. What is a terefa? Terefa is a set of conditions or defects such that an animal that has one of these conditions would theoretically not be able to survive for 12 months. In other words, they are not compatible with life. The Torah teaches us that this animal is not fit for consumption to the Jewish palate. Even if it's slaughtered correctly and everything, if it has one of these defects, it may not be eaten. Okay, that's one of the rules. And the Torah says you can give the meat to the dogs. Unlike with Nevela, where it says you can give it or sell it to a non-Jew. They have no such restriction. The terefa, it says, give to the dogs. Now, this is just an example of what may be done with it. It's not a requirement that you do. And it's the Torah's way of teaching you that, yes, it's prohibited for you to eat, but it doesn't mean that it's prohibited for use. You can still feed it to your dogs. Your dogs don't have a requirement of kashrut, and you get some sort of material benefit from it. Feeding your animals, perfectly acceptable. It's just the actual eating that's prohibited. Okay, but the Torah could have taught that any number of ways. Well, there's a Derasha, bit of an explanation, that says that the reason the Torah says that is because of a line much earlier in the Torah, where, sorry, I'm getting tangled up and I'm detangling myself. Love it when the dog walks around behind you with the leash. The Torah says, during the time of the plague of the firstborn, that against the children of Israel, not a single dog will whet its tongue. Now, this is a metaphor that you, the Egyptians, are going to suffer the death of the firstborn in every family, animals and people. There was not a single house in which there wasn't a death. But against the children of Israel, there won't even be a dog barking at them. They will have nothing to fear. It's sort of like when we say A to Z. We don't just literally mean A and Z. We mean the whole gamut. It's the extremes. It's like saying, you're going to get your head cut off, and I won't even have a paper cut. It's a metaphor. However, there are those who teach this Derasha to mean that as a reward for the dogs who didn't bark at the children of Israel, they were given all of the terefot. Any animal that's not acceptable is given to them as a gift, as compensation for that assistance they provided. Okay, seems a little odd, but fine. It's a derasha. It's meant to teach you a lesson about appreciation, how you show your appreciation for something someone else does. Even if it's just a dog, even if it's by God's command, the dogs followed God's orders and just did what they were told. They didn't have a choice. The Israelites were still instructed to show their appreciation for that fact. Detangling myself again. Okay, fine. It's meant to teach you a lesson. That's good. So the Torah could have chosen any number of examples. This is the one it gave. Gratitude. Cool. Problem. I heard a story. I don't know whether it's true, and I hope it is not. But I heard a story some years ago that there was a certain woman in a certain community whose job was to check animals for terefot. She had to check whether animals had any of these conditions. Now, according to halakha, they're rare. Therefore, you don't have to check for most of them. The exception is the lungs of an animal, of mammals, are very often perforated or have holes, and therefore you do have to check them. It's common. It's still a minority, but it's common enough that it's a thing you have to do. Fine. Well, how did she check them? She said she would throw the meat to the dog, and if the dog ate it, she knew it was a terefa, and if the dog didn't, then she knew it wasn't. Well, that's not how halakha works. Some time ago, a friend of mine posted an image on his Facebook account saying, may we be fortunate enough that we learn to treat the midrash figuratively and halakha literally, rather than midrash literally and halakha figuratively. I hope someday we get to that point. Shabbat shalom.